Hey yogis and yogis, welcome back to Yogana. My name is Anna. Today we'll be doing another yin flow. So if you have any props that are similar to a blanket, a big pillow or bolster, and then just one block, go ahead and grab those. But if not, no worries. We'll just go ahead and grab our mats, grab something comfy to wear, and get ready to relax. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start on our backs. And if you have those props, again, no worries. But if you have them, we're gonna take the bolster and place it down at the end of our mat, so where our feet are gonna go. And then that blanket can just kind of be like a little pillow. So go ahead and set up, so placing the head on the blanket, and then the knees are gonna go on top of the bolster or pillow. So if you want to kind of make it really tall, you're welcome to, or a little bit lower down, depending on what kind of bolster or pillow you might have. Just making sure that the heels are still grounded on the ground, and then that pillow is supporting your head. Those arms can just come down beside you, and we'll just start with some breath work. So go ahead and ground, maybe closing down the eyes or just fixing the gaze on something on the ceiling. Just taking your gaze, finding a soft gaze, or coming inward by closing the eyes. Opening and closing the jaw, relaxing muscles in the face, maybe wiggling out toes and fingers before we find stillness. And then making your way to stillness. Rolling the shoulders underneath the spine, the toes roll out to the corners of the mat. And then we'll just close down the lips. So close down the mouth, breathing in and out through the nose. So as you inhale through the nose, maybe counting to a count of 4 or so as you reach the top. Hold for a count. And then exhale out the nose for a count or 2 longer than the count it took to inhale. So just finding your own method of counting here. It doesn't have to be 1 second equals 1 count. Just see what works for you, what method, without you feeling like you're forcing too much of your breath work. Just really starting to even out and control the breath, but especially lengthen the exhales. So just continuing a couple rounds at your own pace. Maybe feeling that sensation of the exhale in the back of the throat. The lips are still sealed, but you can still kind of feel that sensation as you exhale. It almost feels like a Darth Vader breath. You're just noticing any sensations you feel in the next couple cycles, whether it be down towards your legs, your toes, your arms, your belly, underneath your nose. Taking one final round with that same count cycle that you found as we started. And then just bringing it back to that natural, effortless breathing. Maybe notice if it's a little bit slower than when you started practice, a little bit more controlled and balanced. And as you're ready, we'll just start to deepen the breath. So reawaken the body just by deepening. Nice inhale and exhale. Start to wiggle out toes and fingers. Maybe blink open the eyes if they're sealed. And then roll out wrists and ankles, slowly making your way onto the right side of the body. So from here, we're gonna keep holding on to that bolster or pillow if you have one. We're gonna roll very slowly onto the right side, placing that bolster or pillow in between the legs. So really finding that separation of the hips and the low back by using that prop to assist finding that natural spacing. And then we'll move that blanket out of the way, grab onto a block if you have one. Just kind of hold it nearby for a moment because I'll show you, if you don't have a block, what direction you can move in. So starting bending in that right elbow and then placing that hand on the head. So either on the side or the back, wherever it lands. That left hand can kind of stay right in front of you just to ground you. And then really just focus on breathing into that right side body, especially just right above the rib cage. So you're welcome to use that blanket if this does feel a little bit uncomfortable underneath the rib cage, but otherwise, if you have that block, it might feel a little bit less pressure if you go ahead and find that thin edge that's a little bit taller. We're gonna prop ourselves up and then slide the block underneath, we're gonna find the flat and wide edge. That might be a little bit more comfortable. So we'll slide that underneath the arm. And then you're just gonna find that point. There's a little bit of a pressure point. And if you need something to gauge like a visual, just placing your hand in your armpit, it's right where that pinky kind of lands in your arm. So that block is just gonna settle into that spot on your arm. And then we're just gonna adjust as much as you need to get settled in. It might feel a little bit tender, so just know that's totally normal. But we're just gonna see how much we can settle into that space. Otherwise, again, if you don't have the block, just keep propping up the head, support the rib cage as much as you can. And then that left hand can stay right in front of you, or it can go ahead and rest on the left hip. So that will just open up your heart to your shoulders a little bit more if you rest your hand on the hip. But wherever it feels a little bit more steady and grounded is perfect. So you're welcome to prop up the head with the right fist or the right palm, whatever feels better. And then as you feel that support of the block, you might start to feel that pressure point really activate. And this pressure point is called the great embrace. So it might start to bring up some sensations, some feelings as we hold here. It might start to feel tender at first, but then it might start to feel really good. So just notice maybe a shift as we hold here in this posture, what starts to surface in the body, in the mind. And closing down the eyes or finding a soft gaze. In yin, we hold these poses for about 3 to 5 minutes. So really letting time and gravity open up those deep connective tissues that we hold stagnant without realizing we place a lot of emotions and stressors in those areas. It can be hard to release and find those spaces to reopen and heal whatever has been sitting there. So this practice can be equally as challenging as a power flow or a hot yoga flow, in just a different way of challenging your mind and your body to find stillness and quietness and find that place of peace in the midst of stillness. These final few breaths on this side, you're welcome to stay here with that hand propping up the head, or maybe see if it feels good to extend the right arm, reach forward, and then let the right ear fall down to the shoulder. So you'll start to get deep into the left side of the neck. Maybe again, if that left hand is on the left hip, just let the left shoulder roll back and settle into the side. We'll start to deepen the breath. If you extended the right arm and lowered down the right ear, we'll just gently, gently bring up the head and then start to gently bend in the right elbow and prop yourself back up for a moment. So just settling in with that right palm, holding your head for a couple breaths. And then lowering down that left hand if it's on the left hip, pressing into the ground, and then each transition we're just moving as slow as molasses. So very gently pressing yourself up, removing the block from underneath you, placing it to the side, and then just flipping over onto the belly onto the opposite side. I'm just going to come in different directions, so I'm still facing you, but you're going to land on that left side of the body. So taking any props with you that you used on the other side, using that bolster, that pillow in between the legs, and then settling into the left side, propping up the left side of the head with your left hand, and bending in the elbow, supporting yourself first with that right hand. Breathing into that space that you know the direction we're going in, just underneath or above that left rib cage, underneath the left shoulder. And then when you're ready, we'll start to press ourselves up a little bit and then grab onto that block. Slide that flat and wide setting underneath the arm and then settle in, finding that same sweet spot on this side, maybe placing that hand in your armpit and then finding where that pinky rests. Adjusting as much as you need to and staying grounded with that right hand if it feels okay, or resting it on the right hip as you roll the right shoulder back. So as you get set up, notice if this side's a little bit more tender or different. And then just start to settle in with your gaze or close down the eyes. Again, just letting anything that comes to mind as you hold in stillness and quietness, just see if you can see whatever comes to mind and feel it, and then always just validate it. If it's kind of wandered off of the mat into a place something that happened during the day or that's going to happen in the week. Just see if you can bring it back in to your breath work and just maybe find that same counting technique that you did at the beginning, just to really bring the mind inward and off of distractions, finding that place of peace in your mind rather than the situations. Really good practice for finding peace in chaos and in quietness. And then if you did on the other side, we'll just gently start to re-extend the left arm and slowly lower down the left ear to meet the shoulder, breathing into the right side of the neck and feeling that pressure point a little bit deeper in the left rib cage. And when you feel balanced on this side, we'll start to deepen the breath. And then gently lift up the head. Re-bend in the left elbow, prop up the head. Reset here for a couple breaths. And then slowly lower down the right hand. Press yourself up to release the block from underneath you. And then come onto your bellies for a moment. So go ahead and move any props out of the way. Come all the way down onto the belly. So extending the arms and legs, the legs. We'll stack the hands. Elbows are going to come out wide and forehead's going to rest on the knuckles. So just shake out the hips. Finding release in the low back and the glutes. And then come to stillness. And press ourselves back up into our sits bones. So bending in the knees, coming into a kneeling posture just for a moment. And then spinning the legs in front of us, coming down to our sits bones and moving into a butterfly posture. So I like to use the props here, but again, you don't have to, but we'll bring the bottoms of the feet together. The knees are going to come out wide. And then I like to place a block kind of right in front of my toes. It might not necessarily meet there. If you want to place it more on the inside of the toes, of the heels, might be a better option. And then we're just going to place the pillow or bolster alongside that block. So the slide, you're going to make like a little slide and it's going to aim away from you. So that's just going to be for the forehead. So however you need to set that up, you're welcome to use even the blanket if that's better. But otherwise, we're just going to bring the heels in close to the body, as close as it can go. If it's closer towards your body, it's more intense. If the toes are further away, it's less intense. So just whatever direction or position you need to be in. And then we'll just lengthen as we inhale. Exhale as we start to fold the heart forward, walk the hands forward, and then maybe settle in that head to rest on any props, or if not, if you don't have any props, just let the head and the heart fold over the feet and kind of hang out wherever they land. Keep the shoulders nice and soft. As much as you can, let them fall down the spine, and the knees are also nice and heavy. So you're really feeling that opening in the inner hips and then even into the low back area. So just checking in with the mind. If it's wandered off somewhere or off of the mat, just see if you can bring it back in. Noticing again any sensations in the body, any feelings that might have surfaced or thoughts. Just becoming curious about it and becoming aware of where your mind might have went or what's coming to the surface, and see if you can just validate it. And then work to bring it back to a place of peace, whether that be something you visualize, a place you visualize, or just even your breath work and your heart beating. If that brings you peace, feeling grounded, focusing on that. We'll just start to deepen the breath. Then very slowly start to lift up the head. Walk the hands back in towards the body. Lift up the heart and take the hands all the way behind you. Gently unwinding, so closing the knees together like a book. Might feel a little bit tender, so just taking it nice and slow. We'll heel toe the feet out a little bit wider than the hips. And then just let the knees fall side to side. The knees can go all the way down or just hover wherever it feels good, but just nice and slowly waking up those muscles and reclosing the inner hips as you move. And then we're going to move into a deer pose. So the next time the knees fall over to the left side, we're going to keep them there. So that right knee is in line with the left heel. I'm going to grab onto the bolster and block again. Bring it over to the outside of the left shin. And then you're going to separate that right knee a little bit if it's not as intense. But if it's a little bit too intense, bring the knee in close to the left heel. You're welcome to sit on that blanket also with that right glute. If it's kind of just really hanging out in the air really high, see if it helps ground you a little bit more with that support of the prop. And then from here, we're just gonna lift as we inhale, lengthen, and then exhale, start to walk the hands in the direction of that left shin. So either landing somewhere along the palms or starting to really lower down to any props that you might use. So either on the bolster or block or both, you'll start to feel it. It's kind of like a modified pigeon pose. So you might start to really feel it in that outer left hip or glute. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the jaw, the muscles in the face, and then settling in. These final few breaths, maybe see if it's accessible, if it's an option to separate that right knee a little bit further away from the left heel. See if that opens you up a little bit more. Or maybe sink those elbows out a little bit wider if you landed on the elbows or if you're on the palms. See if you can lower down to the forearms, but no forcing here. Just see if you're opened up a little bit more with holding this posture. Just notice how productive the passivity can be in stillness, how effective it can be, even though it feels like we're not doing very much. And we'll start to deepen the breath. And then gently start to bring yourself back up the way you came into this posture. So coming back onto the palms, lifting yourself up. And then we'll just find a little twist before we come out of it to the other side. So take the left hand behind you, right hand comes to the left knee, and then we'll just twist over to the left. Maybe gaze goes over the left shoulder. And then exhale, release and unwind, and switch sides. So move any props over to the opposite side, have them handy. And then we'll just windshield wiper the knees over to the right side. So maybe a couple times, just let the knees fall side to side, unwind. And then land the knees over to the right side. Maybe grab onto that blanket to sit the left glute on. And then separate that left knee and the right heel as comfortable as it feels to separate. And then line up any props against the right shin. And we'll lengthen as we inhale. Exhale as we start to square up the torso with the right shin and walk it down. So just noticing maybe the side's a little bit different, a little bit more open or a little bit tighter. But wherever you land, just know with time you're going to open yourself up a little bit deeper. So just giving yourself a little grace, a little bit of time to open up, and then finding your variation with your hands. So staying up on the palms, maybe lowering onto the forearms or elbows, maybe taking the elbows out nice and wide, and feeling that opening like you would in pigeon pose in this modified swan pose called deer pose. Relax the shoulders, relax the tongue in the mouth, and settle in. These final breaths again, just maybe see if you can press that left knee away from the right heel, or maybe take the elbows out a little bit wider as you sink deeper into the side. We'll start to deepen the breath. Inhale, start to bring yourself back up. Walk the hands in. And then find that little bit of a twist. Right hand goes behind you. Left hand goes to the right knee, and gaze maybe goes over the right shoulder. Release and unwind, and then come back onto the stomach. So go ahead and very slowly swing the legs back behind you. We shouldn't need any props for this posture, but you might still want to have a block handy just in case. So go ahead and come onto the bellies, shake out the hips again, stack the hands, let the elbows come out wide. And then we're going to move into a broken wing. So take that right arm out beside us. Left palm is going to place right underneath the left shoulder. And then as we press into the left palm, we're just going to go ahead and roll onto the right side of the body and kick that left foot behind you. So here's where that block might come in handy. If your left foot isn't quite touching the ground, it might be good to place that block underneath it. But you have other options here. So it might feel a little bit better to walk the hands in and bend in the elbow, or it might feel better for you to extend the arm. So just see where that feels good. And then final option, if it's a little bit too intense, this is a really tender area, see if you can bring the knees in, stack the knees and bring it into your chest. So that might feel a lot better, a little bit of a relief in, or a release in the right shoulder, the right side of the chest. But just finding your variation here. Maybe with time, start to play around in some of the more intense variations for your body. But this is a really tight area that we tend to close up all day. So just giving yourself some grace again, being patient with your body as it slowly opens up. I'll start to deepen the breath. And begin to re-extend both legs or that left leg, depending on what variation you chose. So we'll come back onto the bellies. Just come back to stillness. So stacking the hands, elbows come out wide, forehead rests on the knuckles. Shake out the hips. And then switch sides. So the left arm extends or bends at 90 degrees. Right palm placed underneath the right shoulder. And then we'll roll onto the left side of the hip as we kick that right foot back, either landing on the ground or a block. Feeling that opening in the left side of the chest and then settling in. When you feel balance on this side, we'll start to deepen the breath. And then come back through center, re-extending both legs or that right leg. Stack the hands, elbows come out wide, shake out the hips. And then roll onto your backs. So you might be facing the different direction. That's okay. We'll just come onto our backs and set up for Shavasana. So if you want to use those props for Shavasana like we started practice, the pillow underneath the head or underneath the knees, you're welcome to. Maybe hug the knees one last time in towards the chest. Just finishing off with any final intentional movements to feel complete, and then make your way into that final resting pose. So arms and legs come out beside you, shoulders tuck under the spine, toes roll out to the corners of the mat. Jaw opens and closes, releasing tension there. Raise and lower the eyebrows. And then finish with one final cleansing breath. Get rid of all the stale air. We'll take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Just let your body feel nice and heavy. Absorb tonight's practice. And just be as long as you need to be. Thank you all so much for flowing with me, for practicing. Hope you feel nice and open, relaxed, and restored. Namaste. If you enjoyed this video and feel great, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next flow.